Hello, everyone. This is Roopa Sunku from Touch a Life Foundation, bringing to you an episode on career elevations. I have the privilege to introduce to you Dr. Ravishankar. Hello there.
Hello, Rupa. Nice to meet you. Thanks for the opportunity to share some insights from my own story. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Absolutely. It is wonderful to see the diversity that you have in your career path and your activities so far, Ravishankar. So I wanted to ask you to share with our audience what you do today as a primary focus in your life at this point of time.
Wonderful. Thank you. So I do multiple things. The top three that come to mind is I founded a company called MentorCloud. It is a cloud-based enterprise software company used by large organizations for people to learn from each other because there are learning systems that are based on content. And I believe learning in context is even more powerful. So I run that company. I founded it. It is venture-backed and we have customers all over the world. Second is I also published a book because I'm passionate about mentoring, which is again, people learning from each other. So as part of that, publishing the book, I get invited to speak. So I've spoken in 11 countries on 4 continents, and I continue to do so as a way to spread the power of humans learning from other humans. And on the outside work, my wife and I also have a foundation called Know Your Roots, and we focus on helping young people become aware and get connected to their roots, because that's where the source of energy comes from. So you can be a fruit and a branch and a leaf, but don't forget that you have a connection to a very, very old tradition. So those are the 3 things, and keeps me busy.
Absolutely. That is quite a manifesto of different activities, but it's also bringing everything together, like you said, learning from people. So tell me how you came up with the concept of this company, and how did you start this process of learning from experience or context?
Yeah, story seems kind of, sort of very diverse because I have an undergraduate degree in designing ships, and then I have a master's in designing submarines. My PhD is in ocean flows. My first job was in automotive industry. I developed hybrid cars, and I worked on semiconductors, and then worked in the aerospace industry. I was working on the 787 Dreamliner, and then there was an accident that didn't happen. Luckily, I was on a plane in Mumbai after I finished my talk, and the plane was asked to take off, but the helicopter carrying the president of India at that time, Pratibha Patil, was also landing on the same runway. So it was a near miss. We would have all perished in 1.2 seconds if our pilot did not see. So it was a very close call, and that was a wake-up call for me. Next day in the newspaper, there was no mention of Ravi anywhere. And that was very annoying to me. And I'm like, I went to IIT, I have this PhD, and still the world did not see a need to mention that Ravi got saved on that plane. So it got me to think, what can I do with my life? I saw that, I had an unfinished job, which is why, God sent me back. That was the thought I had. And having worked in the flow of fluids for my PhD, flow of products in my work, I thought about the flow of wisdom. And I said, if I can find a way to streamline the flow of wisdom in the world and impact 100 million people, I think that's probably worth coming back to the planet instead of, disappearing. So that's how the mission started, is how do I streamline the flow of wisdom? And I studied how humans evolved. I studied our Indian heritage, the whole Guru Sishya Parampara, as they say, the gurus and Sishyas or disciples. So I said, why not bring that into the enterprise? Why not get employees to learn from other employees? And that's how MentorCloud started.
Excellent. Excellent. So let me ask you, who inspired you or what motivated you to go through all of these journeys that you've talked about, which also seems to just evolve and progress very granularly or very organically, I would say, right from planes to ship. They talk about surf and turf in food. So you have that in the automobile and you have the third layer also, not only the turf and the surf, but the air or the aerospace or the skies as well. So tell me, what inspired you to kind of take this journey? I know that you talked about the collision and the existence that triggered your thought process, but what were some of the inspirations to start off with IIT and then kind of build your career path and your academic background this way?
Yeah, thank you. Right from childhood, I'm an incredibly curious person. I've also said in some of my talks that in India especially, we all grew up with this phrase, curiosity kills the cat. but I say curiosity only kills the cat, but it makes a human being. It makes a life story. So I'm a very curious person. I was studying in this town called Vijayawada. I was originally in Telugu medium till my third grade, and then my aunt comes and tells my dad, why don't you put him in an English medium, because I'm the seventh child. So my dad said, okay, fine. All six kids were in Telugu medium, so I was put in English medium. And then I joined another high school. And then somebody was talking about, going to 11th and 12th in, outside of Vijayawada. So I ended up being curious again. And thanks to my dad, he always supported my curiosity. So he allowed me to study in Chennai for my 11th and 12th. And that's how I really got to know there is something called IIT. Because back in those days, Vijayawada, there was no IIT, and from there. So again, somebody was going to an IIT coaching, and I said, what is IIT coaching? So if there's one thing, that I want to leave with all your listeners, it's a curiosity, because world has a story for you. And when you start second guessing and when you ignore those signals, that's when you end up in places that you should not, you don't want to be. So I'm an incredibly curious person, and I'm very open. I always question, why did this person come and tell me this? Maybe there is something. So I always see a door partly open, and I go open it fully and see what's out there. So that's what got me to be open to careers. Right after my PhD, there was an automotive company that was coming up with new designs for hybrid cars. And I said, yeah, I know something about fluids. So at every step, I wouldn't say I choreographed it or, essentially called a few friends, but I was curious, I was open, and there was a little bit of boldness too. I don't worry about things. At the end of the day, God has given us, and our parents have given us a good life and some good basic sort of habits, So I know that I can figure things out. So being bold, being a bit curious, and being open to an opportunities, now I see the dots. So like Steve Jobs said, dots can only be connected backwards. And in my case, it is exactly true. Every step of my life has been designed to do what I do today. And it's because I never questioned whether it was a left turn or a right turn or, going to Chennai. People said, Ravi, they speak Tamil there. You're from Andhra. It's okay. We will figure it out. So I was the first to come to the US in my family. I was the first to do a PhD just because of being open and being confident that you can figure it out. Even if you fail, it's okay. We'll figure it out.
Fantastic. That is such a powerful but yet simple thought that you share. Curiosity and being risk aversive, or rather willing to take the risks and be able to get into any new areas that you can see in the horizon. What are your thoughts on influences? Obviously, your father was a powerful support system and an influence system to be able to thrust you to the next level. What do you think are the influences? So the reason I ask about influences is you obviously have to see things around you to even attempt that curiosity to that next level. If you don't see things around you, how do you come upon that influence? Any thoughts around that, Ravi?
Yeah. So it comes from that, what I call, having that an open mindset, right? And an example I can give is, let's say, you want to collect milk into a vessel. If the vessel is closed, if you have a lid on it, you can't put milk in it, right? So the vessel has to be the lid has to be removed first. So that's number one. But second thing is the vessel has to be clean. So even if the milk is very, very pure, if the lid is closed or if the vessel is dirty, the milk that you pour in is not going to be clean. So I encourage people to be open and to be clean, because only clean things you will receive. So openness and being sort of well intentioned will open up opportunities. If you don't have it, and if you don't have that calm, clean attitude, then even if God appears in front of you, you might miss him or her. So I encourage people to be on the lookout, be open, do not second guess. That's the next book I'm working on second guessing. People second guess all the time. Like, why should I do this podcast in the middle of the night? Why should I go to this webinar? My uncle did that and it didn't work, so I should do it too. So they just have this logic that goes in their mind. And I encourage people, do not second guess. If it showed up in front of you, there is a reason for it. So there is an element of faith that you have to let the universe choreograph it for you. Dr. Kalam said, if your intentions are right and if your dreams are big enough, he said, the universe will actually come together to make things happen. And I see in my case, that's probably what, how things happened. The universe worked in my favor because I was, I would say, ready and willing to receive.
Beautiful, beautiful. Love the concept. How do you think, as people kind of working this trajectory, being open, being curious, being adventurous with their next steps and almost carefree with their next steps, how do you think we should address when you get stuck in that point in time, or you don't see that progression that you want to see and building frustration and so forth? How do you handle that overall in your trajectory?
Yeah, so it's very, very important to surround yourself with good people who have your best interest in them. And I mean, what I do today is all about mentorship. I have mentored hundreds of people, and my company's platform touches hundreds of thousands of people around the world. Providing them a mechanism to have connections to people who care about them. In fact, one question I ask in all my talks is, who is thinking about you when you're sleeping? It's very important, because your career, your story, your ambition should be getting amplified even when you yourself are not there. What conversations are you in even when you are not there, right? So I have always relied on people, my dad, my uncles, my friends, my elder brothers. So and of course, my incredible school teachers who always saw something in me, and they would give me an extra book to read. They would send me an article. They would always encourage me, hey, Ravi, you should go here, you should do that. So definitely surround yourself with people. You're never alone. We only come alone, we leave alone, but we should never live alone. That's very important. And I highly encourage everybody to pick 2 or 3 people whom you can trust, whom you can get some perspectives, and then make your own decision.
Fantastic. That was just beautiful. And it's almost like you've got a practical approach to life, and keeping it simple and yet practical seems to be the 2 words that I can think of as your mantras as you share the various aspects of your life. So tell us one last thing is, what are things that you do for fun other than work? And do you also believe in the phrase of fun and play need to go together in order to feel successful and feel achieved and accomplished overall?
Yeah, I do a lot of things for fun. I have a very, very hectic life, but it involves a lot of my interests. So I do stage drama. Yes. I sing. If I'm not talking or if I'm on a Zoom call, I'm doing singing. I sing both, South Indian Carnatic music as well as old Hindi Telugu songs. I'm always singing. My wife is always telling me, turn off that, Ravi radio. And in Chennai, I also learned violin. I learned Sanskritam. So I also chant. I've learned, all the Vedas and to how to chant. So I have made my life colorful because that's really what keeps me, energized and positive so that I never have a dull moment. I'm on several boards, some for profit, some non-profit. So what keeps me balance again, and something for the listeners is, fill your life with multiple kinds of things. Life can get very boring, and you never want to waste a single second in your life and not have fun or not have impact. So I always measure every second, every day like this. Am I having fun? Am I making impact? Because fun is for me, impact is for others. So it has to be a two-way street. It can't be all impact and I'm not enjoying it, or it cannot be all that I'm enjoying and I'm not doing anything. I'm not being useful to society. So two operating words that come to mind is balance, fun, and impact, and you will have a wonderful life.
Fantastic. This is just beautiful. Thank you so much for spending these few precious yet powerful moments with us, Ravi. And I'm sure listeners will be able to pick up the simple concepts that I was able to learn from you. That is, be curious, be honest and transparent, be adventurous, and keep that loop of good people around you. Surround yourself with people that can project you and take you to your next path. And last and most important, if you are happy inside with all the impact that you're creating for people and having fun doing that piece of work within your life, then everything looks like a bed of roses, and it's pretty enough that you feel good, you feel energized, and you create the synergy to a progressive path. So thank you once again. And listeners, please connect via touchalife.org and join us for many more such powerful sessions. And I'd like to take this minute to thank Ravi for spending this amazing set of thoughts and time with us today. Thank you, Ravi.
Thank you so much, Roopa. Thank you to TALRadio, and I'm honored to be one of the advisors. And it's really, your program sounds so amazing that you're actually bringing out these stories, because the best way to learn is from other people's stories. Hindsight is 2020, but somebody else's hindsight is your future. So these kind of programs are extremely valuable for our young people. So thank you for doing it, and thank you for having me. Wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, Ravi.